Are the boys still waiting outside?
Oh, the boys. I forgot them in Vienna.
It wasn't common to have multiple relationships during the 1950s and 60s, yet when we look at the lives of famous actresses from that era, it seems there were no limits. Many of these women were openly or secretly involved with as many partners as would seem excessive even by today's standards. Some were so consumed by their physical desires that they were almost diagnosed with what would now be considered a medical condition. Despite this, they didn't stop. Here we delve into the stories of 18 actresses whose intense sexual appetites and fantasies drove them to live wildly unconventional lives, breaking taboos and societal norms of their time. Let's explore their experiences and what led them to pursue such passionate lifestyles. 1. Barbara Lamar. Barbara Lamar, often referred to as the girl who is too beautiful, was a silent film star and screenwriter whose life was as dramatic off-screen as it was on. Known for her stunning beauty, Lamar was also infamous for her wild, hedonistic lifestyle. She lived by the philosophy that sleep was a waste of time, and she spent her nights in the Hollywood party scene, surrounded by a string of lovers. Lamar was married 5 times, though some of these marriages were disputed as she kept certain relationships a secret. Her insatiable desire for excitement, including romantic and sexual relationships, contributed to her early death at the age of 29. Rumors suggest that Lamar's death from tuberculosis and nephritis was exacerbated by her extreme lifestyle and drug use. Although the term sex addiction was not used during her time, Lamar's constant involvement with men, her marriages, and her passionate affairs hint at a life driven by more than just professional ambition. 2. Lupe Velez. Lupe Velez, known as the Mexican Spitfire, was a larger-than-life actress who burned brightly in Hollywood's golden age. Her fiery personality on and off-screen captivated many, but her tumultuous love life often overshadowed her acting career. Velez had a long list of high-profile relationships, including rumored affairs with stars such as Gary Cooper, Johnny Weissmuller, whom she married, Charlie Chaplin, and Clark Gable. Velez's romances were often volatile, particularly her relationship with Cooper, which was filled with intense passion and jealousy. There were reports that Velez even shot at Cooper in a fit of rage. Velez's reputation for being fiercely sexual and outspoken was also connected to her desire for constant attention and love, fueling rumors of her addiction to sex. Tragically, Velez died by suicide in 1944, after her romantic life reached a breaking point with a failed relationship and an unplanned pregnancy. 3. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth, one of the most famous actresses of the 1940s, is often remembered for her iconic role in Gilda and her stormy personal life. Although she was incredibly shy in her personal life, Hayworth found herself drawn to powerful, often domineering men, which led to 5 marriages, including one to the famous director Orson Welles and another to Prince Ali Khan. Despite her quiet demeanor, Hayworth had a chaotic love life, with affairs and marriages that were often fraught with drama. Hayworth herself admitted that she struggled with finding emotional intimacy and often felt used by men who only saw her as the sex goddess she portrayed on screen. Alcoholism also plagued her life, compounding the difficulties in her relationships. Though there was no direct acknowledgement of sex addiction, her troubled marriages and need for love and attention suggest a deep-seated struggle with intimacy and self-worth. 4th, Marion Davies. Marion Davies was a talented comedian and actress, best known for her long-term affair with newspaper tycoon William Randolph Hearst, which ultimately overshadowed her career. Despite being Hearst's mistress for decades, Davies was rumored to have had an affair with Charlie Chaplin while still involved with Hearst. This love triangle reportedly caused Hearst to fly into jealous rages, further feeding the gossip surrounding Davies' personal life. Though her affair with Hearst was well known, Davies also had a reputation for being flirtatious and involved with other prominent men in Hollywood. Her relationship with Hearst, which was built on loyalty, lasted until his death, but the public often saw her as a gold-digging mistress rather than a talented actress, in part because of her open sexuality and the power imbalance in her relationship with Hearst. 5. Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks was one of the most free-spirited women in Hollywood during the silent film era. Best known for her role in Pandora's Box, Brooks embraced her sexuality in both her personal and professional life. Unlike many actresses of her time, Brooks was unashamed about her numerous affairs with both men and women. She openly discussed her experiences, refusing to conform to societal expectations of female modesty. Brooks famously rejected Hollywood's attempts to pigeonhole her into the good girl image, instead playing into her reputation as a liberated woman. Although she denied being either bisexual or lesbian, Brooks did have relationships with women and frequently explored her desires. Brooks's unapologetic approach to life and love, coupled with her many relationships, suggests a strong inclination toward sexual freedom, and she often spoke about how the film industry mistreated women by exploiting their sexuality. 6. Jayne Mansfield. Jayne Mansfield, often described as Marilyn Monroe's rival, was one of the biggest sex symbols of the 1950s and 1960s. Known for her voluptuous figure and larger-than-life personality, Mansfield was also infamous for her wild personal life, which included 3 marriages and numerous extramarital affairs. Mansfield was deeply involved in the Playboy world, and her desire for fame often crossed into her sexual relationships, using her image as a bombshell to keep herself in the spotlight. Her marriages dissolved due to her numerous affairs, and her sex drive was often mentioned by those close to her. Mansfield was rumored to have had relationships with several high-profile men, including John F. Kennedy. Her persona was built around sex appeal, and many believed that she was addicted to the attention and validation that came with being a sexual icon. Her tragic death in a car accident at the age of 34 cut short a life that was as scandalous as it was glamorous. 7. Gene Tierney. Gene Tierney, one of Hollywood's most beautiful actresses, was admired for her roles in films like Laura and Leave Her to Heaven. However, her personal life was often fraught with difficulties, including a string of romantic relationships and 2 marriages. While Tierney did not have the same reputation for scandal as some of her contemporaries, her romantic life was nonetheless marked by tragedy and mental health struggles. Her first marriage to fashion designer Oleg Cassini was passionate but tumultuous, and she was known to have had several affairs during and after the marriage. Tierney struggled with bipolar disorder, which led to erratic behavior and emotional instability in her personal life. Although she was not openly linked to the concept of sex addiction, her need for love and validation through relationships is a recurring theme in her life story. 8. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford's life was as tumultuous as her career was successful. Known for her steely performances, Crawford was also infamous for her manipulative and often abusive behavior, as detailed in her adopted daughter's memoir, Mommy Dearest. Crawford had relationships with numerous men in Hollywood, including Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Clark Gable, and Spencer Tracy. Her desire for control in both her personal and professional life often led to rumors of affairs and extramarital relationships. Crawford's reputation for using her sexual allure to advance her career and maintain her status as a top actress fueled speculation that she had an addictive need for both attention and sex. Her string of relationships, including 5 marriages, was marked by instability and a desire to remain in the spotlight, which she equated with personal worth. 9. Mabel Normand. Mabel Normand, a pioneering actress and comedian during the silent film era, had a career filled with both triumph and scandal. Normand was known for her sharp comedic timing, but her personal life was plagued by drug addiction, which often overshadowed her talent. Normand had numerous relationships with both actors and powerful men in the film industry, and her wild lifestyle led to speculation about her romantic escapades. Normand's life was marked by 2 infamous scandals: her involvement in the 1922 murder of director William Desmond Taylor and the 1924 shooting of millionaire Cortlandt S. Dines, in which Normand's gun was used. Though cleared of any criminal charges, these incidents cast a shadow over her career, and her involvement with powerful men in Hollywood added to her reputation as someone caught up in the excesses of fame, including promiscuity and substance abuse. 10. Mae West. Mae West, beyond her public persona as a sex symbol, was also an incredibly savvy businesswoman and one of the earliest actors in Hollywood to fight for creative control. At a time when studios wielded immense power over their stars, West negotiated contracts that gave her near-complete authority over her roles, scripts, and even the final cut of her films. This was almost unheard of during the 1930s, especially for a woman, and is a testament to her confidence and strategic mindset. Another little-known aspect of West's life was her unconventional relationship choices. Despite her risque public image, West never had the wild, celebrity-filled personal life people might expect. She was involved in a long-term relationship with a man named Chester Rubinski, who later took the name Paul Novak, from 1954 until her death in 1980. Rubinski, 30 years her junior, remained fiercely loyal to her, even though they never married, and he stayed out of the public eye. While West openly talked about her love of men, she was actually quite private about her serious relationships. West was also an early LGBTQ+ ally, something that isn't often discussed. She had a deep appreciation for drag queens, featuring them in some of her stage productions, when doing so was considered controversial. She once said that many gay men had found a haven in her films because they felt represented in her exaggerated, larger-than-life persona. She even penned a controversial play called The Drag in 1927, which explored the hidden lives of gay men, though it was shut down due to censorship. Her success extended far beyond just Hollywood. She was also an incredibly successful real estate investor. West wisely bought up property in Los Angeles when it was still relatively affordable, and over the years the value of her investments skyrocketed. This business acumen meant that she remained financially independent and secure throughout her life, unlike many of her peers who suffered financial ruin. Mae West's impact on pop culture is still felt today, but it's her behind-the-scenes shrewdness, her dedication to marginalized communities, and her private loyalty and relationships that paint a fuller, more surprising picture of this Hollywood icon. 11. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner was not just the sultry, seductive beauty that most people know her as. Beneath her glamorous exterior, Gardner harbored deep insecurities and a fierce independence that few people understood. While she was married to some of Hollywood's biggest names, including Mickey Rooney, Artie Shaw, and Frank Sinatra, Gardner's personal life was far more complex than her tabloid reputation suggested. One of the more surprising aspects of Gardner's life was her tendency to shun the Hollywood social scene. Though she was always seen as part of the Hollywood elite, Gardner much preferred the simple life and often retreated to her Spanish villa to escape the limelight. She became fascinated with bullfighting and flamenco dancing and immersed herself in Spanish culture. Unlike many of her contemporaries who lived for the press and publicity, Gardner used her fame to buy herself privacy. It was in Spain that she felt most at home, away from the pressures of Hollywood and its demands. Gardner's relationship with Frank Sinatra is one of the most famous love affairs in Hollywood history, but what many don't know is how tumultuous and toxic their relationship could be. Their marriage was marked by jealousy, arguments, and emotional turmoil. Sinatra was deeply insecure about Gardner's attractiveness and independence, leading to explosive fights. Yet despite their issues, they remained deeply connected. Even after their divorce, Sinatra reportedly continued to support Gardner financially, sending her money when she faced tough times later in life. Interestingly, Ava Gardner was also incredibly modest about her own acting talents. Though she appeared in some of the most iconic films of her era, including Mogambo and The Barefoot Contessa, Gardner never saw herself as a great actress. In her later years, she confessed that she often relied on her looks rather than her acting abilities, feeling that her beauty was what sustained her career. In the 1950s, Gardner's fame made her a target of the FBI. Due to her romantic relationship with Spanish bullfighter Luis Miguel Dominguin and her residence in Spain, she became a subject of surveillance during the McCarthy era, suspected of communist sympathies. While no concrete evidence was found, the mere fact that Gardner was under scrutiny demonstrates how her choices, especially her departure from Hollywood's social norms, made her a controversial figure behind the scenes. 12. Zsa Zsa Gabor. Zsa Zsa Gabor may be remembered for her flamboyant personality, wit, and her 9 marriages, but beneath the surface, there was much more to her than just being a socialite. Born into a wealthy Hungarian family, Gabor was actually trained in an Austrian convent before being introduced to high society in Europe. Her beauty and charm quickly caught the attention of royalty, and she was even crowned Miss Hungary in 1936. What most people don't know is that she lived through the turmoil of World War II, narrowly escaping the horrors of Nazi-occupied Europe by fleeing to America. Gabor's glamorous life in Hollywood was, in part, a way for her to leave behind the traumatic experiences of her past. Gabor's wit and sharp tongue were her signature, but she also had a sharp business mind. She understood early on that being a celebrity meant more than just being in movies. It was about building a personal brand. She parlayed her fame into television appearances, commercials, and even self-promotion as a public figure long before the idea of branding existed. She often joked, "I never hated a man enough to give him his diamonds back." But behind the scenes, Gabor was quite savvy about managing her finances and keeping control over her image. Beyond the tabloid fodder of her many marriages, Zaza had a close friendship with many high-profile figures, including royalty and world leaders. She was particularly close to Elizabeth Taylor and was often seen socializing with European aristocracy, making her a true bridge between Hollywood and European nobility. One of the lesser-known tragedies of Gabor's life was the 2002 car accident that left her partially paralyzed. The once vivacious Gabor spent the final years of her life bedridden and out of the public eye, but her sense of humor and larger-than-life personality remained intact. Despite her physical limitations, she continued to make headlines, including a memorable incident where she was hospitalized after accidentally falling out of bed while trying to answer the phone. Gabor's life was filled with contradictions. While she played the role of a materialistic, man-crazy socialite, she was deeply intelligent and incredibly pragmatic about how to navigate the world of fame. Her success and notoriety were not accidents. They were carefully crafted by a woman who understood the power of charm and humor. 13. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor, one of the most iconic actresses of the 20th century, is widely known for her beauty, talent, and multiple marriages. But there's much more to her story than meets the eye. While her love life was constantly in the tabloids with her 8 marriages to 7 men, what many people don't know is the extent to which she was a fierce advocate for AIDS awareness at a time when it was still a taboo subject. Taylor's close friendship with actor Rock Hudson, who died from complications related to AIDS, deeply affected her, and she became one of the first major Hollywood figures to speak openly about the disease. She co-founded the American Foundation for AIDS Research, ARMFAR, and helped raise millions of dollars for AIDS research, showing her dedication to causes beyond the screen. Taylor's life was also marked by a lifelong battle with health issues, something not always apparent from her glamorous image. She suffered from a variety of illnesses throughout her life, including scoliosis, which contributed to her chronic back pain. Additionally, Taylor underwent over 40 surgeries and was nearly blind in her later years due to cataracts. Despite these challenges, she maintained her work in Hollywood and used her public platform for activism, making her resilience just as remarkable as her talent. Her volatile relationship with Richard Burton, one of Hollywood's most famous love stories, was filled with passion, alcohol-fueled fights, and reconciliation. But beyond the drama, few people know that Taylor and Burton were actually great intellectual companions. They shared a love for reading and would often buy books together on topics like history and literature. Burton wrote love letters to Taylor that were filled with poetry and philosophical musings, showcasing the depth of their connection beyond the tabloid headlines. In addition to her romantic entanglements, Taylor was also a savvy businesswoman. She was one of the first celebrities to launch her own fragrance line, White Diamonds, which became one of the best-selling perfumes of all time. Her keen business sense helped her maintain financial independence, and she used her wealth to support causes she cared about, including her AIDS activism. Taylor's legacy as a Hollywood icon is well known, but it's her dedication to humanitarian work, her incredible resilience in the face of personal challenges, and her intellectual pursuits that make her truly fascinating. 14. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead was a force of nature both on and off the screen, known for her flamboyant personality and scandalous lifestyle. While she was widely recognized for her theatrical performances and deep, husky voice, what many don't realize is just how progressive she was for her time. Bankhead was unapologetic about her bisexuality and lived her life on her own terms, at a time when even a whisper of such behavior could ruin a career. She famously referred to herself as ambisextrous, refusing to label her sexual orientation, and she had relationships with both men and women, including actresses like Patsy Kelly and singer Billie Holiday. What's lesser known about Bankhead is her strong political convictions. She was an outspoken advocate for civil rights and women's rights and wasn't afraid to voice her opinions, even if it was controversial. Her father, a U.S. congressman and Speaker of the House, was a major figure in Washington, and Tallulah often attended political events, unafraid to share her progressive views. Despite her reputation for wild behavior, she was deeply involved in the political scene and used her platform to push for social change. Bankhead's love for life extended to her penchant for throwing extravagant, infamous parties. At these gatherings, she would often entertain guests in the nude, further adding to her mythos as a wild Hollywood figure. However, beneath her bold persona, Bankhead struggled with addiction. She was known to indulge in alcohol and drugs, particularly cocaine, and this lifestyle took a toll on her health. She also had a deep-seated fear of aging and often joked about it to mask her insecurities. Despite her wild image, Bankhead was incredibly generous and known for her acts of kindness. She would often visit orphanages, donate large sums of money to those in need, and give her friends extravagant gifts. Her compassion was often overshadowed by her outrageous public persona, but those close to her knew she had a big heart. Bankhead's legacy as an entertainer is undeniable, but her role as an LGBTQ+ trailblazer, civil rights advocate, and political activist adds layers to the story of this incredible woman. 15. Lana Turner. Lana Turner is often remembered for her glamorous image as the sweater girl and for the scandal surrounding the death of her lover, Johnny Stompanato. However, there are many hidden facets of her life that people don't often talk about. Turner, who became one of MGM's biggest stars in the 1940s, had a career marked by a series of high-profile relationships and marriages, 8 in total. What is less known is how much she struggled with her own mental health and how her tumultuous love life impacted her personal stability. Turner was a product of a broken home, her father having been murdered when she was still a child. This trauma stayed with her throughout her life, leading to a need for stability that she often sought through relationships with controlling, sometimes abusive men. Her relationship with Stompanato, a gangster with ties to the mob, was the most notorious, ending in his violent death at the hands of her teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane. What many don't know is that Turner herself was a victim of Stompanato's abuse, and she feared for her life in the days leading up to the fatal incident. Beyond her personal struggles, Turner also had a rocky relationship with MGM. Though she was one of the studio's most bankable stars, her image as a bad girl often led to tensions with studio heads, who wanted to market her as the girl next door type. Turner, however, was more complex and didn't fit neatly into the roles MGM tried to cast her in. She fought for roles that would challenge her and allow her to break away from her sweater girl image. But these efforts often met with resistance. Another lesser-known aspect of Turner's life was her resilience as a mother. After Stompanato's death, the media frenzy could have destroyed her career, but Turner's testimony during the inquest, along with the loyalty of her fan base, helped her recover professionally. Behind the scenes, Turner worked hard to protect her daughter from the public scrutiny that followed the trial and continued to be a dedicated mother. Despite the personal and public challenges she faced, Turner's life was one of glamour, but it was also marked by hardship, resilience, and a constant quest for personal fulfillment beyond the silver screen. 16. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow, often referred to as Hollywood's original blonde bombshell, had a short but explosive career that left an indelible mark on the industry. While she's remembered for her glamorous image and roles in films like Hell's Angels and Dinner at 8, her life was filled with tragedy and intrigue that extended far beyond her public persona. One of the most shocking events in her life was the mysterious death of her second husband, Paul Byrne, just months after they were married. Byrne was found dead from a gunshot wound in their home, with Harlow's perfume scattered around his body. Though ruled a suicide, rumors swirled about possible foul play, particularly surrounding Byrne's troubled personal life. Despite this tragedy, Harlow's career continued to rise, and she became one of MGM's most bankable stars. But what many don't know is that Harlow was plagued by health problems throughout her life. Her iconic platinum blonde hair, which set a trend in Hollywood, was achieved through the use of harsh chemicals like bleach and ammonia, which left her scalp burned and her hair damaged. Additionally, Harlow suffered from kidney disease, which was misdiagnosed at the time. Her deteriorating health led to her sudden death at just 26 years old, shocking the world and leaving her fans devastated. Harlow's financial situation was also complicated. Despite her success, she was far from wealthy due to mismanagement by her mother, who controlled her finances. Known as Mama Jean, Harlow's mother had a tight grip on her daughter's earnings, which created tension between them. Jean Harlow, who often played strong, independent women on screen, had very little control over her own life off-screen, and this lack of autonomy contributed to her personal struggles. Harlow was also an incredibly kind and generous person. She was beloved by her co-stars and the crew members she worked with, often going out of her way to help others. Her down-to-earth nature endeared her to those around her, and she maintained close friendships with other stars like Clark Gable and Spencer Tracy, who were devastated by her untimely death. Jean Harlow's life was brief, but her legacy as one of Hollywood's most iconic stars endures. Her combination of beauty, talent, and vulnerability made her a legend, while the tragic circumstances surrounding her life and death continue to fascinate fans and historians alike. 17. Clara Bow. Clara Bow, known as the original It Girl, was one of the brightest stars of the silent film era, but her life behind the scenes was anything but glamorous. Born into extreme poverty in Brooklyn, New York, Bow's early years were filled with hardship. She grew up in a dysfunctional family with an abusive mother who suffered from mental illness and a mostly absent father. Bow's childhood was so difficult that she reportedly once had to defend herself from her mother with a butcher knife, an incident that left a lasting emotional scar. These early experiences shaped Bow's need for validation and love, which she sought through her fame and relationships. Despite her traumatic upbringing, Bow's charm and on-screen energy were undeniable. She became a major star in the 1920s after the release of the film It, which cemented her status as a sex symbol, but her off-screen life was as scandalous as her on-screen persona. Bow was known for her numerous affairs with co-stars, directors, and even athletes, including rumors that she had relationships with several members of the USC football team. While much of this was fueled by the Hollywood rumor mill, Bow herself admitted to living a fast and wild lifestyle. What many people don't know is that Bow never felt truly comfortable in Hollywood. She often referred to herself as a misfit and struggled with the pressures of fame. When the transition to talkies began, Bow's insecurities worsened. The tabloids took a toll on her, particularly as they criticized her Brooklyn accent and personality, painting her as brash and unrefined. In addition to this, she was hounded by personal scandals, including a damaging lawsuit against her former secretary, who leaked intimate details of Bow's private life to the press. By the early 1930s, after a nervous breakdown, Bow made the decision to retire from acting at just 28 years old. She married actor Rex Bell, and they moved to Nevada, where they lived a quieter life on a ranch. However, Bow's struggles with mental illness persisted. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia and spent much of her later life in relative seclusion, away from the public eye that once adored her. Clara Bow's life was a mix of fame, tragedy, and resilience. While her stardom in the 1920s was meteoric, her personal battles and the harsh treatment she received from Hollywood remind us of the toll that early fame can take on even the brightest stars. 18. Joan Collins. Joan Collins may be best known for her role as Alexis Carrington in Dynasty, but her off-screen life is just as dramatic as her iconic character. While many are familiar with her multiple marriages and infamous affairs, few realize the depth of her personal and professional struggles throughout her career. Collins has been married 5 times, but her second marriage to actor Warren Beatty is the one that made the most headlines. Their relationship was famously tumultuous, with Collins eventually leaving him due to his incessant infidelity. What's lesser known, though, is that Beatty wasn't her first heartbreak. Collins was engaged to actor Maxwell Reed at just 17, a man who later drugged and assaulted her. Despite this traumatic experience, she went on to marry Reed, though the marriage didn't last long. While Joan Collins became a household name in the 1980s with Dynasty, her earlier career was filled with ups and downs. She initially struggled to gain recognition in Hollywood, where she was often typecast in glamorous but shallow roles. Collins, however, was determined to take control of her career and fought for better parts, eventually landing the role that would define her career in Dynasty. But success came with its own challenges. Collins was often at odds with her co-stars and the show's producers over pay disparity. In fact, she famously became one of the first female TV stars to demand equal pay to her male counterparts. Despite her success on Dynasty, Collins's personal life was marked by drama. Her third marriage to businessman Ron Cass ended when Cass became addicted to drugs and drained much of Collins' wealth. Left financially insecure, she turned to writing as another form of income, penning a series of best-selling novels and memoirs. This decision helped restore her financial independence and showcased another side of her talent that many weren't aware of. Collins has also had relationships with both men and women, though she has largely kept her same-sex relationships private, especially during her early years when Hollywood was far less accepting. Even as she aged, Collins maintained her unapologetic, fearless approach to life, continuing to work well into her 80s and remaining a fixture in British and American entertainment. Today, Joan Collins is seen as a trailblazer, not just for her acting, but for her ability to survive and thrive in an industry that often chews people up and spits them out. Her career is a testament to resilience, talent, and an unwavering belief in herself. 19. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is often remembered as Hollywood's ultimate sex symbol, but her personal struggles, mental health issues, and complex relationships paint a far more tragic picture than the glamorous image she projected. One of the lesser-known facts about Monroe is that she suffered from a severe lack of confidence and constantly feared that people only valued her for her looks. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, Monroe's early life was filled with instability. She grew up in foster homes and an orphanage, as her mother struggled with mental illness and was institutionalized. These early experiences deeply affected Monroe, leading her to seek approval and love through her relationships and public persona. Monroe was married 3 times, first to James Dougherty at the age of 16, then to baseball star Joe DiMaggio, and finally to playwright Arthur Miller. Each of these relationships was filled with its own set of challenges. Her marriage to DiMaggio was marked by jealousy and control, with DiMaggio reportedly becoming enraged by her iconic scene in The 7-Year Itch, where her dress billows up over a subway grate. DiMaggio wanted her to leave Hollywood and live a quiet, traditional life, something Monroe was unwilling to do. After their divorce, however, DiMaggio remained a close confidant, even arranging her funeral after her death. Her third marriage to Arthur Miller was one of the most intellectually stimulating relationships of her life, but it too ended in heartbreak. Monroe's need for emotional support and validation often clashed with Miller's introverted personality. She felt abandoned by him emotionally, which only deepened her depression. What many people don't realize is that Monroe had an incredibly sharp mind and was deeply interested in literature and intellectual conversation. She was an avid reader and owned more than 400 books, including works by Dostoevsky, James Joyce, and Tolstoy. Monroe was far from the dumb blonde persona that she portrayed on screen. She was a woman who craved deeper connection and sought to improve herself through education. However, Monroe's insecurities were exacerbated by her drug and alcohol use. She struggled with prescription medication addiction, a habit that was fueled by the pressures of Hollywood and her deep-seated emotional issues. Monroe's mental health deteriorated rapidly in her final years, with her behavior becoming increasingly erratic on film sets, leading to her being fired from productions. Her tragic death in 1962, ruled a probable suicide, remains a subject of speculation and conspiracy theories, with many believing that there may have been foul play involved due to her rumored affairs with John F. Kennedy and his brother, Robert Kennedy. The list does not end with these 18 actresses. It goes on, so we may come up with new lists as we are digging deep into the pages of history to find more of those who were not able to control their desires.